Imagine a private corporation governing 200 million people. While it holds a royal charter from London, its actual command center is a boardroom where directors prioritize quarterly returns over human rights. To protect those returns, this company builds an army twice the size of the British military. In the year 1600, England was an economically isolated island. The global spice trade was the era's most lucrative market, but English merchants were locked out. The Portuguese Navy patrolled the Indian Ocean, while the Dutch controlled the most valuable ports in the East Indies. For an individual merchant, the barriers to entry were impossible. No single person had the capital to build a fleet, sail 10,000 miles, survive naval battles with European rivals, and return home with a cargo of cloves and nutmeg. Entering this market required a new financial model, a way for hundreds of strangers to pool their capital and share the risk of a single voyage. This is corporate risk pooling. Instead of one man risking everything on one ship, hundreds of investors buy shares in a fleet. If several ships sink, the losses are spread thin, but if even one ship returns laden with cargo, every shareholder profits. On December 31st, 1600, Queen Elizabeth I grants this new startup a royal charter. The document gives the East India Company a legal monopoly, making it the only British entity allowed to trade east of Africa. The company initially targeted the Indonesian Spice Islands, but after being violently outcompeted by the Dutch, they pivoted to the Mughal Empire in India. In India, the company identified a massive prize: industrial manufacturing. The Mughal Empire generated nearly 25% of global GDP, producing high-quality textiles like the intricate calico and chintz seen in this sample. By the end of the 17th century, the company established factories, fortified warehouses, along the Indian coast. They were now the primary middleman for the richest empire on Earth. In the early 1700s, the Mughal Empire began to fracture into competing regional states. Seeing an opportunity to secure their assets against French rivals, the company transitioned from simple trade to military organization. They recruited the sepoys, a professional standing army of native Indian soldiers. These troops were paid by the company, equipped by the company, and commanded by corporate clerks who had traded their ledgers for sabers. The breaking point came in 1756. The ruler of Bengal, suspicious of the company's illegal fortifications and tax evasion, marched on Calcutta and expelled the British. Robert Clive, a former company bookkeeper, led the response. At the Battle of Plassey, Clive faced 50,000 soldiers with a force of just 3,000. He won by bribing the enemy's chief commander and the region's most powerful bankers to stay off the field. The Battle of Plassey was a hostile corporate takeover. By purchasing the loyalty of his opponents, Clive secured the wealthiest province in India with a loss of only 22 men. In 1765, the company forced the Mughal emperor to grant them the Diwani, the legal right to collect land taxes from 30 million people in Bengal. This created the imperial tax loop. Previously, the company used European silver to buy Indian goods. Now they collected taxes from Indian citizens and used that money to buy Indian products for export. The conquered population was effectively paying for its own colonization. To meet the demands of London shareholders, the company enforced tax collection with systemic extortion. Rates were doubled even as agricultural productivity declined. When the monsoon rains failed in 1769, the company refused to lower taxes or offer disaster relief. Instead, they hoarded grain and forced farmers to grow cash crops like indigo for export, rather than food for survival. 10 million people starved to death in the Great Bengal Famine. Yet in 1771, the East India Company reported increased tax revenue and declared a 12.5% dividend payout to its shareholders. By the 1850s, the company's territorial expansion had brought nearly 200 million people under its rule. However, its focus on extraction and its disregard for local customs had created a volatile environment. The spark was a new piece of technology, the Enfield rifle. To load it, soldiers had to bite the ends off lubricated paper cartridges. When rumors spread that the grease was made from cow and pig fat, it insulted the religious convictions of both Hindu and Muslim sepoys. The resulting rebellion in 1857 saw sepoys turn their weapons on their corporate masters. The uprising spread across northern India, threatening to dissolve the company's entire administrative structure in a matter of months. The company eventually crushed the rebellion with brutal force, but the cost was astronomical. The war proved that a private corporation could no longer manage the stability of an entire subcontinent. The British Parliament realized that the company's pursuit of profit had brought the empire to the edge of catastrophe. In 1858, they passed the Government of India Act to strip the corporation of its power. This was a massive nationalization. The East India Company's private army and its vast territories were transferred to the Crown, marking the beginning of the British Raj under Queen Victoria. The East India Company was officially dissolved in 1874. It left behind the template for the modern joint stock corporation, a model designed to maximize shareholder value above all else. Today, multinational conglomerates often hold more wealth and influence than many sovereign nations. The story of the East India Company remains a warning of what happens when the logic of the balance sheet becomes the primary law of the land.